Hello, my name is Bobby, and in this video, I'm going to be showing you how you can use ScriptRunner Connect to enable the entire of your software ecosystem to benefit from Atlassian's Rovo tool, rather than just the Atlassian ecosystem itself. Rovo is Atlassian's new AI tool that is pushing and promoting a lot to enable you to utilize AI to make your working life easier. Rovo exists inside the Atlassian stack, so you can ask Rovo questions or build custom Rovo agents to handle specific tasks. Currently, Rovo has what is called Rovo connectors that give you the ability to utilize connections to tools outside of the Atlassian ecosystem, but this is only to pull data into the Atlassian toolset. So if I was to create a connector to, for example, Slack, Rovo would search Slack for an answer, but it would not be able to push data to Slack. At time of recording, Rovo doesn't have any REST APIs, so there's no way to call Rovo to have it perform certain actions for you outside of Atlassian. Until now. With ScriptRunner Connect, we can enable you to use API calls to get Rovo to perform tasks for you or give you answers, and then feed that back into ScriptRunner Connect, where we're going to then be able to send that data out to your entire software ecosystem. So how does this work? With ScriptRunner Connect, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a workspace. We don't need to create a connector for this particular use case because there is no connector necessarily needed. I'm going to call this Video Rovo Demo and click Create. Now we are in the workspace view of ScriptRunner Connect. We are going to actually go to Jira now to set the Rovo agent up ready to have ScriptRunner Connect activate it. So the way we're going to be doing this is by utilizing Jira's automation feature. So if I go to automation, and I'm going to create a new one from scratch, this automation is going to be built to use the Rovo agent to calculate a response. So the first thing we're going to want to do is have a trigger. The trigger is going to be an incoming webhook. So if I select search for webhook, and select incoming webhook, the details of which will be configured once the rule is turned on. I can then add a component, and in this component, I'm going to be adding the Rovo agent to perform a task. I'm going to select the Rovo agent that I've created called Knowledge Base Assistant, which is just trained very simply on a certain set of Confluence pages to give me information about ScriptRunner Connect. And then I can add a component, and the action I'm going to perform is sending data out over a web request. This is going to allow me to send the response back to ScriptRunner Connect so that I can then receive the data that the agent has calculated. Now that we have all of the steps configured, let's actually go and build the data that goes into them. So for the Knowledge Base Assistant, we're going to ask it to perform an action based upon the data coming in from the webhook. So the way we get that information is by using these brackets. These brackets define what comes in. So the webhook data is going to be coming in, and it's going to have a summary and a description object in a JSON structure. We're then going to ask it to respond to an answer. We're going to ask it to respond in a JSON format. We're going to delete those two lines just for now. They are going to become relevant later. But for just for now, we're going to ask it to say the summary is coming in from the webhook. The description is coming in from the webhook. Can you please give a response in JSON format with the following information? And then for the web request, we're going to be able to send this data out. So for this, we're going to go back to ScriptRunner Connect, and we're going to create an event listener. Event listeners give people the ability to listen to events from other tools, so that you can trigger ScriptRunner Connect when an action happens inside one of the tools in your software ecosystem. As you can see, we've got a number of tools here that we have pre-configured options for. However, for this, we're going to be selecting generic. Generic creates a unique URL, and when data is sent to that URL, it triggers a script in ScriptRunner Connect. So I'm going to be listening for type async. We have async, which is fire and forget, and we have sync, which gives you the ability to return a response. But because we're not going to be responding to the automation, we're just going to leave it as async. And then we're going to generate a script. I'm going to say capture Rovo response. When I click save, the event listener is created, the script is there, ready to receive that data, and we are given the unique URL. I can select this URL now, go back to the rule builder in Jira, and paste the URL here. We're going to be sending post, and we're going to be sending custom data, and the custom data is going to be the agent response. So now the response is going to come from the agent, send it to ScriptRunner Connect. And now all we need to do is configure ScriptRunner Connect to A, correctly capture that response, and B, trigger the automation. But to do that, we need to turn the rule on to get the information. So when I select turn rule on, we're going to name the rule Rovo SRC demo and select to turn it on. And we're going to see now that the webhook information to trigger this automation has been created. I'm going to go back to ScriptRunner Connect and I'm going to create a new script to trigger the automation. So from here, we're going to write a script that very simply just makes an API call to Jira to activate the webhook. So I'm going to copy some pre-existing code just to show you what this looks like, and we're going to run through it. So in here, what we are doing is we are hitting a specific URL that is provided to us in the automation, so we can correct that now. I can go and get this URL and update the URL, this one, to be correct. So let's paste that in here. Method post, and then we're just sending in the headers content type application JSON, so we're sending JSON to this API call. And then we have X automation webhook token. Now this script is using the environment variables or the parameters to be able to access this. So we're going to set that up as well. So if I go to automation secret and copy, under parameters, I'm going to create a parameter of type password. It's going to be called automation secret. And then if I go back to the automation, we're going to see that the secret is provided here. So I can just paste that in here, click create, save changes. Now we have the secret saved in a secure way that will be used at the point of execution to enable us to talk to that API endpoint. Lastly, in the body, we're going to be sending some JSON. So the JSON we're going to be sending is very simple, just a very simple question. What is ScriptRunner Connect? Please give me a short summary of ScriptRunner Connect. So I'm going to save this script. So now we have a script that we can execute that will go and trigger this automation, feed those two pieces of information into the agent, ask it for a response, and the response will come back to ScriptRunner Connect. So the last thing to do is just to capture the response. What we can do is just see how that response comes. First things first, however, one last thing to change. On the incoming webhook, the default assumption on an automation is that we're going to be sending a work item data through with the call. We're not going to be doing that, so we're going to select no work items come in from the webhook. Let's update the rule. Now, by default, when you create the event listener, this will come through and we're going to see the event in the event variable. It is captured in there, but more specifically, we're interested in the body. So what I can do here is instead console log out event body. Save, and now we're ready to run the test. So I'm going to trigger the automation by clicking the play button here to run this manually. This is going to execute and it's going to go to Jira to trigger this automation. So if I go to the audit log, we can see that an automation is in progress. Let's do a refresh to see when it's finished. That has been completed successfully. If I go back to ScriptRunner Connect, you can see that we've captured the response from the automation, and under the body you can see that we have an answer and we have the source of the answer. So to format this a little bit nicer, we can just say const rovo answer equals event.body.answer, and then const rovo source equals event.body.source, and let's do a nicer console log answer given Rovo answer and console log source used Rovo source. We'll get rid of this console log so that it doesn't confuse things, and we'll even comment out the initial console log that is given. Save these changes, trigger the automation, and have that process run again. Trigger the automation in Jira. When we refresh here, we're going to see another one is in progress. We're feeding that information into Rovo, asking it to give us a response in a certain format. When this is finished, we can go back to ScriptRunner Connect and we can see the answer given is this, and the source used is this. So now we are able to trigger Rovo to give us an answer based upon information going into Jira, and then receive the response back. Now, for those unfamiliar with ScriptRunner Connect is ultimately an integration platform. It gives you the ability to connect to any of the tools in your software ecosystem with REST APIs and communicate with those tools to include them in your automations or your cross-platform integrations. Because of this, what we can now do is we can feed data into Jira and get a response back from Rovo. The data we feed in can come from anywhere, and what we do with that response can go to any number of tools. So let's look at a more complete example. The example we're going to be using, and we mentioned this tool before, is Slack. We're going to enable you to talk to Rovo, again, answer out of Rovo directly from Slack without having to go into the Atlassian ecosystem. So what I can do here is we're going to create a new event listener, and this event listener is going to be from Slack. Choose the connector, choose the event type. So we're going to just very simply say it's a slash command, and we're going to keep it on Slack /command. When I select save, we get the instructions on setting that up. So I'm just going to very quickly do that. Go to here, create a new command. We're going to call this one /Rovo ask Rovo anything. Oops. From the instructions, we're going to take the URL and we're going to paste this into the request URL. We're going to give a description. You can ask Rovo anything. And we're going to click save. Now that this command is available, what I can do is go to Slack and see the command. Ask Rovo anything. We can see that this is a command available to us now. And when let's use the command with a sample question or sample text. Hello world. When this executes now, we can go back to ScriptRunner Connect, and we can see that we've received that information along with the information about what was executed. And you can see here we have hello world under the text value. So what we're just going to do is very simply take that text and we're going to feed it into Rovo. So with this, we're just going to have the same API call we did before. So let me get the trigger automation API call. And in here, rather than give a predefined description, we're going to give event.text. So now this is going to be able to feed a question into Rovo and give Rovo the question, any question that someone has asked with that command. But we want to capture it correctly. So one thing to be aware of here is this is two script executions. There's no way to access the information of the initial execution. So whilst in here under the event variable, I have access to the user who raised the request and the channel in which it was raised in, I won't have that when it comes to executing on the capturing of the Rovo response, because that is the execution of a separate script. There are a number of ways you could solve this. We have something called record storage that gives you the ability to cache information. However, for completeness, I'm just going to include it in the call. I'm just going to feed it into the automation rule and ask Rovo to give it back to me. So I'm just going to add these two lines to the body that we send. And I'm going to click save. And then in the automation, under the Rovo agent, I'm going to add those and ask it to feed those back to me. So now we are capturing the question from the user, the channel that the question came in, and the user who raised that question. We're feeding it into Jira. Jira is then going to trigger an automation that is using a Rovo agent to calculate the response. And then we ask the Rovo agent to give us back the answer, the source, and then the information about the channel and the user who raised that question. This will then come back to ScriptRunner Connect, where we can action that data. So I'm going to update this. I can go back to ScriptRunner Connect and capture the Rovo response. And now we're going to do something a little bit more complete. So I'm going to just copy and paste some code just to make life easier. So the channel ID, the user ID, the answer, and the source. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to add the API connection to communicate with Slack. So click on the API connections, click plus, choose Slack, and then choose the connector. And then in capturing my Rovo response, I'm going to import the Slack API connection, and we're going to be making this API call. So to make an API call with Slack, we have the managed API, so we can very quickly and easily say const send answer, just to capture the response, just in case we want to debug it, slack.chat.post message. Define the body, define the channel, it's going to be channel ID, and then the text can include the response. I'm going to copy and paste something just in Slack's format, just to make life easier again. So what this is going to do now is when we get the response back from Rovo, the bot is going to respond in the same channel. It's going to @tag the user who asked the question, give them the answer as well as the source that the Rovo agent used to provide that answer. So when I select save changes, this is all ready to go. So let's run it. So in Slack, /ask Rovo anything. What is ScriptRunner Connect? Go back to ScriptRunner Connect. We're going to see that we've captured it. We've pushed it onto automation. When I go to automation and go to the audit log, we're going to see that one is in progress. So again, we're now using that Rovo agent to calculate the response and send the information back to ScriptRunner Connect. That has finished. You can see here, ScriptRunner Connect has captured the event, they captured the response, and has executed the generic event for capturing that. And finally, when I go back to Slack, we can see that the bot has been able to give me an answer directly at responding to me and including the source for where it got the information that it's been provided. So now you can see that despite the fact that Rovo doesn't have a REST API, using ScriptRunner Connect, what we can do is quickly and easily set something up that gives you the ability to enable tools outside of Atlassian's immediate software ecosystem to enable the power of Rovo. When you think about all that we've done here, all we've done is we've set up a single automation. We've got a single script here that is 20 lines of code. We've got another script here that is another 20 lines of code. And now all of our users can access and ask Rovo questions from Slack without having to leave the instance, without having to go into Jira and talk to the tool. This is obviously powerful beyond Slack. I mean, other chat tools, Microsoft Teams is still, would be an equally valid option. But beyond this also, for example, you could have another ITSM tool use Rovo to calculate responses to tickets. Say someone raises an incident with me in ServiceNow. I can listen to an event from ServiceNow. When I get the incident from ServiceNow, I can take the description that's given by the user and the information on that ticket, feed it into the automation, ask Rovo to calculate what the response should be, get the response back, and then use the managed API for ServiceNow to go and add a comment on that ticket with the answer that Rovo has provided. I can connect this up to perform actions in GitHub, GitLab, Git repos, essentially anything. In today's day and age, most tools have a REST API, especially cloud-based tools. Using ScriptRunner Connect to include those in your integrations is quick and easy. I hope this has been useful. If there are any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. We'd be happy to answer and happy to help. And until then, look forward to talking to you soon and have a great rest of the day.